Saturday, August 4th. Tonight, getting out. Bill Lee resigns as John Turner's campaign director. Olympic encore. Alex Bauman wins another gold medal for Canada. The National with Sheldon Turcotte. Good evening. Bill Lee, the Liberal Party's campaign co-chairman, has quit. He handed in his resignation to Prime Minister Turner, saying he'll have nothing more to do with the election race. Lee's resignation comes only 4 days after Senator Keith Davey was brought back to direct the Liberal campaign. Whit Fraser reports.
Bill Lee's reward for directing John Turner's Liberal leadership bid was to be named National Director of the election campaign. But since the beginning, the Liberals have been plagued with sharp internal differences and disorganization. This week it came to a head when Turner named Senator Keith Davey as co-chairman of the campaign. Davey was one of Pierre Trudeau's closest advisors. At one point, Turner said he wouldn't have Davey on his team, but this week it was clear he had no choice.
But I get the best advice I can.
And on Tuesday, Bill Lee agreed.
I have been urging the Prime Minister to get him involved in a formal fashion, and now it has been done, and I'm delighted.
But today, Lee met with the Prime Minister and issued this brief statement. In light of media reaction to Senator Keith Davey's appointment, I felt I had no alternative but to resign as National Campaign Director. Lee said he will take no further part in the campaign. I have been working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for 4 months. I'm going home to my kids. The Prime Minister was not available for comment, but he issued a brief statement indicating he's given Senator Keith Davey even more power. I have accepted Bill Lee's resignation and have named Senator Keith Davey as campaign director. Turner expressed no regret at Lee's resignation. Bill Lee's decision to quit is a serious blow to the Liberal campaign. Not only does it reflect the confusion and division in the Liberal camp, but it'll also give Mulrooney and Broadbent the chance to call into question John Turner's ability to put together a new team. Whit Fraser, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Lee resignation comes at a bad time for the Liberals. Their troubles are showing just as the Tories and NDP say their campaigns are hitting their stride. David Halton, the CBC's chief political correspondent, in his weekly campaign assessment, looks at how the parties fared over the past week.
Bill Lee's resignation today was just the latest of many indications that John Turner's campaign is badly off course and heading into dire straits. Turner began the week apologizing for mistakes he made in last week's TV debate.
And I'm glad to be able to apologize to the Premier and the people of Manitoba.
Mistakes that have punctured his image of competence and created a nervous, edgy atmosphere on the Turner tour. There was continuing evidence, too, of organizational disarray, computer equipment still being installed at Liberal Party headquarters more than 3 weeks after the election call, and party workers complaining of slow and confused decision-making. The move to bring back an old pro, Senator Keith Davey, as campaign co-chairman, was intended to get things back on track, particularly in Ontario. But that won't be easy, and more so now that Lee's departure has created the impression that Turner's new team can't work together with the old guard Liberals. The plague of Liberal problems was one reason Brian Mulrooney was looking so confident this week as he campaigned in Quebec and Atlantic Canada. Unlike the Liberals, Mulrooney's campaign was unfolding with clockwork precision and obviously reaping the benefits of the slow and troubled Liberal start. The first major opinion poll taken after last week's TV debates shows the Conservatives grabbing a 9-point lead over the Liberals. The same poll indicated that the NDP has pulled out of its slump and is now back at its more traditional level of popular support. The poll was a big boost for Ed Broadbent, who campaigned through the week in Western Canada with greater confidence now that the New Democrats can hang on to most of their seats.
If the poll is on the mark, there's been a phenomenal shift in voter preference since the election was called, a 10-point Liberal lead over the Conservatives being completely reversed in less than 4 weeks. The only consolation for the Liberals is that in such a volatile mood, the voters could just swing back their way before September. A possibility, though, that seems unlikely unless the Liberals can finally begin to get their act together. David Halton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Ed Broadbent wasn't campaigning today. He was in his hometown of Oshawa taking a day off. Brian Mulroney was in his hometown too, but the Tory leader wasn't resting. He was out campaigning to win the riding of Manicouagan away from the Liberals. Jason Moskowitz reports.
This morning in Baie-Comeau, something special. Water skiers set out to cross the Gulf of St. Lawrence. 116 kilometers there and back on one ski. Brian Mulroney was there not to see the great event. He came to see all the people.
I grew up with your dad.
Yeah?
We're both that high together. And we spent a lot of time together. Good to see you. Give them my best.
Okay.
Just a few meters behind Mulroney, shaking the same hands, was André Maltais, the Liberal member for the riding. He says he was there because he's always there.
I always am here at Baie-Comeau when Stravsky opening, and it's not news for me. It's new for Mr. Mulroney.
Then the Mulroney campaign buses hit the road, setting out on an incredibly beautiful trip along the Gulf of St. Lawrence. The Gulf is dotted with little villages with big problems. Most of the people in these little villages have no jobs. There are the obvious social problems because of it. Further down the road in a place called Godbout, 5 times as many people showed up today than the number of Conservative votes in the 1980 election. Only 19 residents voted Conservative in Godbout. Here and elsewhere, Mulroney promised if he's Prime Minister, he'll have a residence in the riding, he'll have cabinet meetings there. He also told them he'll have people from the riding right in the Prime Minister's office to take care of their problems. Mulroney doesn't make any specific promises on how he'll better the lives of the people along the north shore of the St. Lawrence, but what he does say has to be very tempting. In this riding, which needs just about everything in the way of government help, Mulroney tells people, don't ever forget, a Prime Minister has the flexibility to get things done. Jason Moskowitz, CBC News, Baie Trinité, Quebec.
Canada has won more medals in Los Angeles than at any other Olympic Games. 18 medals, breaking the old mark by 3. Alex Bauman broke the record with his 2nd gold medal in swimming. Tom Kennedy reports.
The 200-meter individual medley. It's Alex Bauman's race. He holds the world's record. Nobody's beaten him in this race in 3 years. Every person in the sellout crowd of more than 17,000 is expecting him to do it once again. For 150 meters, it's close. Then he pulls ahead. He's beaten the competition, but can he beat the record?
Unofficially, a new world and Olympic record.
For the 2nd time this week, Alex Bauman proves he's the best individual medley swimmer in the world.
The winner of the gold medal, representing Canada, the Olympic champion, the new world and Olympic record holder, Alex Bauman.
And in the crowd, hundreds of Bauman fans, but none prouder than the swimmer's mother. Before this week, Canada hadn't won an Olympic gold medal in swimming in 72 years.
I mean, 2 gold medals, I just can't really describe it in words.
The swimming competition is now over. People can remember that it was here at the 1984 Olympic Games that Canada became a world power in swimming. Tom Kennedy, CBC News, Los Angeles.
This evening, Canada's swimmers won a silver medal in the men's 4x100-meter relay, and Ben Johnson won bronze in the 100-meter sprint. 10 Canadian women rowers took medals too. A silver in the pair oars, another silver in the Cox 4, and a bronze medal in the women's double sculls. Police say a tip led them to recover 2 cases of a rare growth hormone stolen from the Montreal Children's Hospital on Monday. No one's been arrested. The hormone is used to treat undersized children to help them reach normal growth. 25 children are at the hospital awaiting treatment with the hormone. A huge oil slick is washing ashore near Galveston, Texas tonight, following beaches along the Gulf of Mexico. 45,000 barrels of crude oil leaked from a British tanker after its hull cracked on Monday. David Dick of CBS News reports.
The oil rolled onto the beaches of Galveston Island in such massive quantities
In places, it left a black swath the size of a 2-lane asphalt highway. From the leading edge of the slick back to the source, the distance now stretches 140 miles, with the main body of the oil extending 40 miles, the entire length of Galveston Island.
Bad. This is about the worst that we've seen. In the Gulf of Mexico, I've seen some oil spills and bays and stuff, and not nothing like this.
Globs of crude oil splashed over emergency barriers and entered the environmentally sensitive East Galveston Bay. Curators at Sea-Rama were washing birds covered by the oil. Cleanup crews were at work on some of the hardest hit areas of West Galveston Beach, but the front-end loaders were having about as much effect as knives cutting hot butter. The beaches were largely deserted, but some of the property owners came out to look and wonder.
It's just solid oil, 3 and 4 inches thick at least, just rolling ashore. I've never seen anything like it.
A few young surfers decided to test the waters, and they soon discovered the runaway oil respects no one.
How bad is it out there?
Not that bad.
The forecast now is that tomorrow the leading edge of the slick will hit the Freeport, Texas area, a major shrimping center. David Dick, CBS News on Galveston Beach.
At least 9 ships have hit mines in the Red Sea and in the entrance to the Suez Canal. All the ships have been slightly damaged, and shipping in the vital waterway hasn't been disrupted. A little-known group calling itself the Holy War Organization claims it put 190 mines near the canal. The Syrian-sponsored peace plan is held for a month in Beirut, but militias from half a dozen groups still swagger through the streets. Many of them are young men, hardened by almost 10 years of war. There are fears that they'll become Lebanon's lost generation. Brian Stewart reports.
Most armed militiamen are now off the streets of Beirut, but it's a constant struggle for peacemakers to keep them off and away from sudden, undirected outbreaks of fighting. On and off, it's been like this for more than 9 years here. An entire generation in teens and early 20s knows little but war and has no trust in peace. And it's often during truce that psychological problems are most evident. Many are deeply scarred by anxiety, guilt, a sense of despair.
We are humans, not animals, and we have the right and the reason, and we have fight for this cause, the life.
Futility is everywhere about them. All their actions have left society worse off than before, so they feel cheated out of their youth and out of a future. Only a major national effort at reconstruction involving all can prevent this becoming a permanently lost generation. But there's still no such effort. And for poorer militiamen, there seems no way out. Druze fighter Ghassan El-Deeb missed his education, but his people expect him to soldier on. He says he and his friends would rather go to discos and have fun, but there are obligations.
We can't laugh and the others crying, you see. So if my people involved in the war, I've got to fight.
It might take 2 years of peace before the habits of war begin to fade among this generation of Lebanese youth. And that is still 2 years no one here can really count on. And tragically, already many of Lebanon's young fighters appear permanently scarred, paranoid, and vicious. Any peace, when it comes, will come too late for them. Brian Stewart, CBC News, Beirut.
Finally, the Queen Mother celebrated her 84th birthday in London today. She's one of the most popular members of the royal family, and hundreds came to wish her many more years. In a particularly well-appreciated gesture, the Queen Mother appeared at the gates of Clarence House, her residence. She was mobbed by children carrying presents of flowers. A band of Grenadier Guards marched by playing Happy Birthday, then a final salute in Hyde Park. And that's the National for Saturday, August 4th. For CBC News, I'm Sheldon Turcotte. Good night.